everybody. This is Brad Bruce, and I'm here with
Jase Marsiglia.
And you're listening to the 5195 podcast.
In person.
You're back.
I'm back. Back in the saddle again, man.
How was the travels?
Wasn't bad.
Wasn't good.
You're crammed into a Tylenol capsule for hours and hours and hours, so it was what it was. But I'm here, man.
It was fun. Yeah.
I got boots on the ground again, and I'm in the studio.
Hell yeah. So we have something fun today.
We do. First recording in person, and we got a guest.
We do have a guest, Mr. Johnny Ramaglia, who we've frequently talked about on the show.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to have you.
It's been long enough. We've talked about you enough. And so it's like, we better bring him on.
Absolutely.
Oh, I know we tried to do it last time, but scheduling kind of got messed up.
Yeah.
Life has a way of sticking it to you sometimes.
It does.
Throwing a wrench.
So many times.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Sometimes you forget your Claritin and you lose your voice.
Oh my God, that was
awful.
fucking horrible.
That was so
We
bad.
were literally like dueling banjos of just sick
We were.
fucking... It was bad.
Bro, like I would get my voice back and then Brad would wake up the next day and be like, "You're never going to believe this." I'm like, "No, you got to be shitting me."
Great.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, there was one whole week that was just shot. It was
sucked.
fucked.
It sucked.
You know?
It was bad. But
yeah,
it's
man.
over. We're here now, so...
We're here now, and figure, obviously, we've told snippets about you. You've come up in stories. But we want everyone to get to know you. I was wondering where you grew up, your old stomping grounds, and what you were up to as a kid.
Right. Okay, boy, let's see here. Well, I'm originally from back east. I was born in Stony Brook, New York, which is on Long Island. Mm-hmm. And, I kind of grew up a little bit more like an army brat without the army. So,
you guys just up and bugged out a lot.
A little bit. It was pretty much just me and my mom rolling around. Nothing unique about that story. Children of the 80s. Very common.
Yep.
So, it was one of these things where we'd do maybe a couple years back east, and then a little bit around towards mid to late 80s is when half of my family started migrating out west, for lack of a better term. So my grandparents came out here, and, we're an American-Italian family, just to give you an idea of the kind of fortunate, tight-knit aspect we had to, this kind of culture.
Yep.
So it would be, all right, so Jonathan, we're going to go out west for a little while. What do you think about that? We're going to go see Grandma and Papa. And I'm like, great, let's do it. Came out here, based in San Diego, mainly Encinitas, La Costa, and Vista, which is, it's Southern California. It's like North County of basically San Diego area, larger area. That was great for me because the landscape changed to more of things that I would actually see in movies. And a lot of the movies I liked at the time was like, it's a different spin. Sure, being back east, you're going to see a lot of older architecture, different kinds of spooky Victorian shit. Mm-hmm. But coming out here was, it was the other side of the coin.
Yeah,
per se.
absolutely. No, and you're right. Out east, like Detroit and everything where I'm from, a lot of Gothic looking architecture, big churches and stuff, and it's not quite like that out this side. It's more what you see on TV.
That's right.
Bit of a culture shock, which I'm cool either way. I have a blast when I'm out here.
Did the move mess with you or anything, or was it just like, this is normal life?
Okay, I loved it.
Okay.
And here's the reason.
Okay.
Because as I started getting a little bit older, a little bit more adventurous, how I looked at it was, all right, I'm going to get in some shit. And it's not going to be too long before we're just going to pack up and go somewhere else.
No.
The tent's going to fold anyway. And,
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
It's clean slate.
Absolutely.
I can run amok, and then I'm good.
That's right.
Was it more just like a purposely nomadic thing where your mom was just kind of like, on a whim, I just feel like going out west? Or was was it ever like a job thing? Or?
It was a lot of that. A single mom trying to grab hold of something new, something that's going to push forward to the future.
Sure.
It's the better life thing.
Yeah.
Not necessarily Oregon Trail.
No, but it was never a matter of, sorry, Johnny, we got to go. We got to move here. It's more like, hey, you up for an adventure kind of thing.
Well, I think that it's the box of animal crackers. All the experiences were there. Some of it was, oh shit, I'm terribly sorry, we got to do this.
Right.
Can't make it here,
Sure.
So there was a lot of Colorado as well, some Four Corners area, similar to the area where they did City Slickers.
Yeah. Okay.
So a lot of those, those outdoor location shots.
Yeah.
Spent some time out there as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, between New York, the beach, and the mountains,
that's pretty fucking culture.
That's a smattering, dude. That's a very scenic way of living.
Yeah. I remember being in it and actually being able to recognize the benefits of it. Because
that's huge for a kid.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was really getting exposed to a lot of different walks of life. Mm-hmm. See, my mom was, first of all, every generation in my family has had a restaurant.
Okay.
My great-grandparents, they had a restaurant, an Italian market.
Okay.
In Manhattan. My grandfather, he grew up on Prince Street. And now I don't know if you guys have seen the American Italian documentary that Scorsese does with it, talking about his parents.
Yes,
and they talk about that same area.
Okay.
Wow.
So a lot of my roots really come from there.
Yeah.
Which trickled down into the family life. Obviously, I didn't really get to experience any of that. They had, made it out of the city and into the island, suburban outsprawl. Everybody gets out of the city when they can. But with that being said, my mom also was a cook, so there was, time periods where she was a private chef for like an oil tycoon's daughter who lived on 1,000 acres of land on this huge ranch in Colorado, and we're living in a 2-story cabin.
Yeah.
I got a creek in my backyard. They got fish hatcheries. I'm catching fish with my bare hands out of this small pond that's way overstocked with fish. Just crazy shit, right? Tom Sawyer to the max. Mm-hmm. And then I'd come out west for the summer and get into your, John Connor shit in the summer out here in California.
Right. Right.
I know you said, if you don't want to talk about it, it's fine, but you said single mom.
Yeah.
So Dad wasn't around?
Dad wasn't around, didn't really know him. I did spend one Christmas with him that I remember, which was in Boston. That's where he lived at the time. And strangely enough, one of the more notable things about that experience is watching Ninja Turtles for the first time when they were still based in Boston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was sick. It was crazy. I mean, I couldn't even fully wrap my head around what was going on. I'm like, okay, so we're in the city, see all these brick skyscrapers, and these buff turtles are doing all this crazy karate ninja shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is all right.
Yeah.
Not a bad trip.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. But what I do know about my dad from that time, he was really big on doing upholstery. And he had his own upholstery company, and from what I know, he had done Ralph Lauren's limousine.
Oh, no shit.
So he was talented, you know what I mean? Like, I think he was probably more of a tortured soul, that kind of thing. Again, this is what happens. I think his dad dipped out on him. It's the only thing he knew, and he didn't know any better, but to keep, I think it's one of those scenarios where maybe you become the thing that you fear the most. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's what happened for him.
Right.
But I had a great family. My grandfather was he was my father figure. This guy he was tough. He was tough.
This is mom's dad?
This is my mom's dad.
Okay.
I don't really know anybody on my father's side. And there's siblings out there. I got half sisters out there that I don't know. You know what I mean? There's a whole other chapter out there.
Well, I think anyone that's born in the 70s or 80s, they have other siblings out there they've never met.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear that. Yeah.
Because guilty.
Yeah.
So, wow, that's cool. So, because I know when we first met, I was told, it's like, oh, this dude's like good on a deck.
Okay, yes. So we're talking about skateboarding.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, all that kind of took place early to mid 90s. And, I'm not going to lie, even though skateboarding was the ticket, we all had that era when we strapped on some rollerblades.
Yeah.
But, what happened was, here's the real thing with it. At first, I didn't actually want anything to do with it.
Okay.
But again, during these summers that I come out here to Cali, one of my really good friends as a child, he was getting into skateboarding. And that's all he wanted to do. So finally was like, all right, man, let me just see it for a minute. And then I finally got a little bit more acclimated to it. And then my grandfather got me my first board, which I then had to take back to Colorado and practice riding on dirt roads.
Wow.
That wouldn't have been easy.
That just,
Forget about it.
Mission impossible.
Yeah.
You're not locking the hubs and doing anything 4x with that.
Nope.
But then again, hey, Johnny, guess what? We're going back to Cali, and we're going to stay there now. So I'm like, all right, I'm ready this time. I'm down for this,
How old were you?
Now, at this point, I was, early teens.
Okay.
So, you're starting to develop your sense of self and friends. So a part of it was a little like, I don't know if I want to do this. I'm starting to get the hang of this shit out here. Mm-hmm. The girls out here like me. I got friends out here. I can get in some good trouble out here. I know all the getaway spots. It was a small town that had Main Street and then 2nd, 3rd, and the 4th. There was alleys and old buildings, a lot of ways to get away from shit. But nevertheless, ended up out here, and I'm going to tell you right now, skateboarding probably saved my life. Because
no kidding, I
would have definitely been on that trajectory to just get into enough shit to carve a different path for myself.
Right.
I would have gotten in trouble with the law. I grew up with such a disdain for authority.
Yeah.
That I was that first kid that when the cops would, try to rope us up, talk about giving us tickets and take our boards, I'd be the first one to just vocalize, oh, man, fuck you. But again, it's, I mean, looking back now, I can say, I was a little white kid and, probably feeling some of the effects of the privilege of that, Right. And I was young and I'm like, what, I'm a minor. What are you really going to do?
Right.
I'm going to get into as much clean trouble as I can. Like, let's face it, this is harmless,
Right. Yeah.
But this was a time nobody liked skateboarding. This was a low point. This was post skate park 80s and pre-reemergence of it becoming global and huge again. So anybody who was pro this time, they weren't making money. They were hard pressed. If you were a professional skater getting even good coverage, you were pumped if you were able to buy yourself a Civic.
Wow.
Like that, like you made it. You know
so
what I mean?
like nobody throwing the name Tony Hawk around or anything like that.
They were because it was he had already got his claim to fame. But what happened was transition skating really went underground because all the contests stopped, sponsorship stopped for that, and then also street skating was becoming huge. Huh. So it went from padding up and getting on a ramp to trimming down your wheel size and hitting the streets. People like Mark Gonzalez really helped pave the way for like new things that could be done on a skateboard, along with, Rodney Mullen.
Right.
I mean, a lot of those guys, a lot of the Bones guys also killed it. I mean, think about Animal Chin, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
They were still doing sick street shit in that as well, sprinkled in there so you could see where it was going.
The ramp stuff.
Yeah. My little germination period was in the heyday of San Diego skateboarding in the 90s. Okay. Now, during this time period, this was the mecca for skateboarding. If you could hop on the bus and get to, these hot spots, there was a very good chance that you were going to see 1 or 2 or 3 pros just roll up with their cameramen and start filming and start doing this crazy shit that was just mind-blowing.
Yeah. And
you're just seeing these guys. And the whole thing is like, these were rebels. We were all out there, essentially breaking the law. Mm-hmm. But we're just trying to have fun. You know what I mean? We're just doing a good thing,
Yeah, it could have been so much worse.
It could have been so much worse.
That's always the argument, and it's true,
So how far did you take the skateboarding?
Well, in my heart and mind, I went all the way. Right. Me and, being a latchkey kid, for example, me and one of my best friends growing up, and still to this day, my best friend, Wes Miller, he's another latchkey kid, and we had similar backgrounds, single moms, doing their thing. They had to work late, they had to work a lot to be able to keep the roof over our head, Mm-hmm. So we were kind of amongst some of the more poor kids in, I'd say, a pretty affluent town.
Okay.
So we kind of gravitated towards each other on that common ground first, along with skateboarding. So it'd be like, all right, we're going to meet in town. We're going to do this. And we pumped it hard. So we got to the point where, we became recognized by some of the older heads. And eventually we got some shop sponsorship. But to be honest with you, the problem with me was I got a lot of ankle injuries. I would tear ligament after ligament after ligament. Like you just popping it. And then it looked like I have a potato under my skin.
Yeah. But, oh, man.
You try to heal from it mentally and you pick it up. And it eventually got to the point where, I made it through high school. I'm still skating, but, now I'm that guy out there trying to keep a roof over my head and pay bills. Then it's like, unfortunately, as much as I love skateboarding, I couldn't keep trying to push it and have to deal with a major injury that was going to put me out of work.
Right.
You know?
Sure.
But, I learned a lot about life, a lot about people, a lot about reading people, a lot about understanding how to find your way and express yourself, and a lot about how to handle a camera and how to not be so shy when the lens is on you, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
To kind of segue into some other stuff. That was some roots of that.
Yeah.
Came from that.
Were you filming yourself and your crew?
Yeah, we filmed all the time.
That's awesome.
I mean, it was great at first, and then it became a nightmare because it wasn't even fun anymore. You just you were so on the job trying to get footage for your part that you became a dick. You're like, well, you didn't get that. Or like, oh, your angle sucks.
So it changed a bit.
It did change, because you're trying to take it to the next level and you lose a little bit of that innocence.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And not really being old enough or having any mentors to help you manage that and look at it in a healthy way. And, going that along with things that were going on in our home lives, that was a great outlet, but then the other outlet was partying a bunch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was the 90s. If you grew up in the 90s, let's look at Dazed and Confused, and we know it takes place in a different time period, but from when it came out, MTV Beach House, we were just being pump program to go get fucked up.
Yeah.
Burn it from both ends. It's a sport.
Yeah.
That's also a sport.
You're right.
So, we had plenty of good times with that too.
So one of the things that we like to, we've talked about doing on this show when we have a guest, because our show is very nostalgia driven. We go back in time quite a bit. And one of the things that we always wonder about people is, what was your aha moment where you felt every fiber of your being go, this is what I'm doing now?
Okay,
This is the direction I want to go. This feels right.
Yeah. There's been a few of those, and it's definitely changed over time. Skateboarding had one of those moments too, because let's see if I can nutshell it. Yeah, the fiber of being, this was something that's all you.
Yeah.
I mean, skateboarding is straight up kung fu. It is hard work. And if you can't find some kind of mental discipline to keep on failing and failing and failing and failing, to just maybe get it once, and then that is all worth it, then I don't even know what else isn't just a basic metaphor for how life is to people.
Yes, I was literally going to say that. I'm like, it's setting you up for getting back up every time.
Yeah, definitely. So that was like that first instance of that. But, then some other things started creeping up too. You're a teenager, music's good, you're starting to explore all these new things that are inspiring and they kind of make you feel alive. And music became one of those things for me as well. I went through my hard punk phases and, my metal and, growing up as a small child, there was always something like Bob Dylan and Bob Marley playing. My mom was huge on music, so it was always around. But, you get to that phase where you're starting like, well, you know what? I'm going to find my own shit. Mm-hmm. So you go through that. And in the late 90s, around 97, is when I started getting heavily into DJing. So me and one of my friends, DJ Crazy Cut, we'd team up and we'd go DJ house parties, on hip hop stuff. But for me, I was a lot more into things like battle DJing. I didn't really want to play your top 40 or, your radio hits. I didn't give a shit about commercial anything at that time.
Right.
If it was commercial at that time, I'm like, turn that shit off. I think a lot of people probably hated it when I showed up because I was selfish. You know what I mean? I wasn't, in that sense, I definitely wasn't a good DJ, but we were into beat juggling, scratching. DJ Qbert, Visible Scratch Pickles, huge inspiration at that time. World famous beat junkies, DJ Babu, Rhythmatic, a lot of these guys, these are the things that started to segue into another huge aspect of my fiber of being, which is the new form of expression. Mm-hmm. Something that was mental and emotional and something that you could share. Skateboarding was something for yourself. It was personal. But if I could tap into creating a good time for even just a few people, admitting that I wasn't playing the hot shit, but turn them on to something new, making the turntable talk, scratching it up and starting to learn that and understanding beats and understanding like, wow, man, this is something crazy. So I really went from that to like, you know what? This isn't enough. I want to participate more in this. I love this culture. So then I started writing some poetry. Mm-hmm. And then trying to figure out, how can I make some of this music? But I was broke. I didn't have shit. So you'd buy these scratched up just drum break records, and they'd be some boring ass shit. And then you would try to grab an instrument on another record, like a trumpet or something, and you try to cut it back and forth and make it hopefully sound like something you heard off a Black Moon tape or something. Failing miserably. But at the time, I spent my life savings, which wasn't shit, to get 2 Technique 1200s and a Roland Boss drum machine. You know, and I'm like a junior in high school at this time. This is like, 97, 98 now.
Yeah.
When this was really pumping up. And I'm like, okay, I remember seeing somebody say something, some DJ, I don't remember his name, but he was talking about somebody else who told him, listen, if you totally dedicate yourself to something for at least a year straight, the discipline of practicing this, you're going to be sick. You got to give yourself to it and make sure you can. And you need to have that discipline. But if you do it, you will get good. So I really took that to heart. And, I kind of started to disappear a little bit out of the house parties. And it was more about let's just go back to my place, pull an all-nighter, and try to make some music, or we'll fuck with records all night.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until my good friend, Sean Haskett, hearing him spit at one of these house parties. Again, this is late 90s. This might have been like 99. It was mind-blowing. I felt his lyrical ability and the vocabulary that he was dropping and the complete thoughts that he was putting together, it wasn't just some silly shit. Mm-hmm. He was coming with it. And I was like, oh, damn, I need to figure some shit out. And people are circling around him. This is amazing, man. This is insane. So from that, he actually gave me some really strong inspiration to try and push rhyming a little bit more.
Okay.
So him and Crazy Cut on the DJing tip. And then this one summer, I think it was, this was summer of going into senior year. He brought a computer down to my house, and he had, I might be wrong on the year, but he was the first person I knew that had any kind of setup to making beats. So he was kind enough to bring this setup down to my house and leave that shit there overnight. So during this little time period that where he had to go home and have dinner with his folks, I was like, okay, I need to soak this shit up. Because before that, all I had seen was, MTV's Music Generator. It was a video game at the time.
I
you could kind
remember
of
that.
drop in basic things.
Right.
Yeah. It came and went, but
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Now there's variations of that everywhere.
Yeah, you can't, on our phones, it comes pre-installed. You can do shit like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so you were doing all this in San Diego.
This was all in San Diego, yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so
yes.
the skateboarding was kind of that was the lily pad.
Yeah, that was
And
a really bad.
it grew into the music thing. So
Yeah.
And so now you were just building an arsenal of beats and rhymes and stuff? Or?
Yeah, this was still kind of a petri dish.
Yeah.
We were starting to, do our little ciphers and try to put rhymes together, do a lot of writing, reading the dictionary, try to learn some new words, how can I use them. We would go down to downtown San Diego, and there used to be this place that we just kind of knew it as The Loft. You could go there on said night and see a group of different DJs take turns doing mini sets, different routines. They would have break dancers, and then they would have hip hop groups. And, it was, again, there was a group that was killing it back in the day. I think they were, if I'm correct, they were called Pack of Blacks. Mm-hmm. And this night that I was there, they were all dressed like Shaolin monks. So I was like, oh shit. And, they did
They've got a theme.
They do have a theme, and I thought it was sick, before they went on, I remember at the time, there was this younger cat, still older than we were by a couple years is what it looked like, but he was scratching it, killing it. This is the late 90s, but this is somebody who ended up becoming who is known as today as the Gas Lamp Killer, which is
Wow.
He's a well-known DJ. So there was a lot coming into maturity from a lot of different angles at that time. Uh-huh. Skateboarding was maturing at the same time that hip-hop was. And there was some common ground there.
Right.
Having to deal with changes of being out in the streets, different cultural stuff, but the same kind of fuck you energy.
For sure.
And that's what I resonated with at that time.
Yeah.
So that's how those two things merged, and that's what I wanted to run with.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. And the thing is, what I liked about that was, you were talking about whipping out dictionaries and pulling records from all these other places. To someone who would look down on something like this, they're not realizing that you're self-educating. All of this is all building blocks that you're doing yourself. You're going out, culturing yourself for one, because you're buying, I'm assuming, random shit sometimes just to get this instrument or that instrument, or
definitely
just, these are all ingredients that you're putting in yourself that you didn't hear from anyone else, seeing how they work, seeing how they play. It's just funny when people tell me these stories, because I'm just like, dude, this is the shit you won't get in school.
That's right.
You're just out there doing this shit on your own and taking the proactive move to, make your dream come true, whatever that may be.
That's right.
And I love stuff like that. That is so cool.
And it's, it's that gumshoe shit. It's like, if I gotta stick these two popsicle sticks together to make this work, then that's what we're going to do.
Yep.
Whether you're trying to make a short film on $5 and you don't have the gear, or you're using the wrong kind of turntables and you can't get the weight right, so you're gluing fucking quarters on top of the needle so the shit won't skip when you're scratching. You're like, you gotta find by any means.
Yeah, it's problem solving.
That's problem solving at its core.
Yeah. But artistically though.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that most people don't understand.
No, because
they don't know that side of it.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Creative problem solving is so useful in day-to-day anything. You know what I mean? If you can teach yourself how to make something work in your art,
right?
There's no way in hell that you couldn't use that same mindset to do something.
Oh, without a doubt.
Basic. You know what I mean?
100%.
It's the same mindset in my opinion.
So you were doing the music thing, and when did you notice this is growing?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And what was that like?
It was cool. It wasn't till a little bit after high school for sure. It was probably around 2001, because we had to incubate and we had to kind of crawl a little bit and then kind of start to walk. And when you start out, your rhymes are shit. You don't know what you're doing. But, you listen to something like Jase's Liquid Swords and you're like, okay. So here's a great example of how to do this right. Mm-hmm. And, you start like, okay, well, what's going on here? What's he talking about? This guy's painting pictures. This guy is spitting movies. Yeah. You know what I mean? I really like...
Yes, vivid.
Yes, so vivid. The things that he is illustrating with words. That's what really got me, And I could find that you'd listen to different artists for different reasons. You know what I mean? But I always kind of came back to somebody who would either drop some heavy wisdom on me, because, at the same time, I'm also trying to stitch together my pieces of a father figure.
Right.
And I'm getting this from the skateboarding community. I'm getting this from hip hop. I'm getting this from MCs. I'm getting this from DJs. And I'm getting this from, maybe my friends' dads or bosses. Anybody who was willing to kind of kick me some knowledge and not just look at me like some punk.
Right. And you were like soaking it up too, right?
Oh, I was soaking it up.
It was forming you.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, it was great. But I always liked these, I was always into these more old-timey things. I liked senior citizens. Yeah. Because they always say that just classic shit that is it just makes sense. It's simple and it's concise.
Right.
And it's almost poetic. They don't, they're not fucking around. These people, they made it through the Great Depression.
Agreed.
They made it through some tough times. I was the only kid in my family for a long time. Like, my aunts and uncles, they were really my great aunts and uncles. So they were a lot of them were senior citizens.
Okay.
And I was just the youngster. So it's, the stories that I heard in these huge Sunday dinners were just from fucking out of this world, a different time.
Yeah.
Like Goodfellas era shit and older, Mm-hmm. Sorry, that's a little bit of a tangent. I had to go there for a minute.
No, please.
But we're all about it.
Okay, you were asking the change. Okay, the change. That's right.
Yeah, the change.
So, me and Sean Haskett, and then another one of my good friends, Hagen Holzer, we formed a group and we started tracking some stuff out. Just trying to focus, we needed to get organized. Mm-hmm. No more just lighting up, drinking some, 40 or whatever and just throwing some stuff into the air and let it just fizzle away in the breeze. So we started to get, let's come up with some concepts. Let's put some music together. Let's actually make some music and let's try to go perform. Mm-hmm. So, we did that. It was a free period, it was a different time, everything was new and fresh. We were just happy to be doing it. We just really, we were just loving participating in something that made us feel so alive.
Right.
So we started doing house parties, and most of the time there was a great reception there, but sometimes people weren't expecting it. Some of these house parties probably would have been better served with maybe a punk band, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But, times were changing and people were kind of opening their eyes up to something a little bit different,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these house parties, they weren't the most diverse groups based on where we were geographically, so we had to kind of break some doors down even within that. Like, look, just open your mind up. Just try to pay attention and have a good time.
Yeah.
You might find that there's another part of you that you don't know you had,
Right.
So we pressed up some CDs and started trying to move those around. This first group was called Apocalypse 3. It was the three of us.
Okay.
Made some shirts. It was a good time. It was a good practice run to kind of see, like, what's this like to be organized and really try to do this?
Right.
And then from there, through creative differences and some people moving to different parts of the state, college, moving to LA and try and get some other things going, that group kind of fizzled out, and it was still me and Hagen around and Crazy Cut, so we formed a new group called Like Minds, and this is like 2002. This is a time period where underground hip-hop is really starting to have its own lane, again, in a different way. So, I say underground, but let me put it independent hip hop. So you're going to see people in this time period that are really making their own lane and doing it and showing you how you can make music on your own and support yourself and be your own business. People like Slug from Atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then you have, Living Legends.
Right.
This was a time period when Swollen Members was huge when they first came out.
Yeah.
And then, all the Battle Axe guys. And there was a lot of, it was a whole new surgence.
No,
there was a whole new indie culture popping up.
There really was.
So, we were seeing right then and there, like, okay, there is a different way to do this. You know what I mean? You don't have to go this lane and try to get signed. And,
right.
You don't have to go try to be a superstar overnight.
Yeah.
You can do this at your own pace, your own way, and be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And just try to share your art with people.
Yeah.
And entertain people and have a good time. It's music. So we were on that tip. Everybody had their own different lane. Crazy Cut, he was somebody that is a genius, so he stayed in school for like 15 more years while he was still good at anything he touched his hands on. And he was still participating in hip-hop, and he was there anytime we needed it. Hagen was doing his own thing. He was a tattoo artist right out the gate. Like early on, he started grinding away on that. He actually used to do tattoos in Bonsall at Body Graphics, this place out in Bonsall, California. If you might remember that place.
I have Body Graphics ink on me.
Yeah. So, yeah. For anybody who doesn't know, it's kind of a tattoo shop of yesteryear, let's say, but it had its little place in time. Kind of perfectly pinned in between the Inland Empire and San Diego, let's say.
It's definitely a landmark. Definitely.
But I'm going to get real with you for a second, because there's a lot of this, like, all this, that, and the third. But, I made a lot of mistakes. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. You're just trying to figure things out along the way. And there were certain things that I wasn't paying attention to while I was clinging so hard to this dream that I was building, right? So, I had some of my own, for lack of a better term, we'll just call them mental struggles, things I was dealing with. I wasn't taking care of my body the way I needed to. I wasn't feeding my mind the way I needed to. I was trying to, not on the music lane, but in my personal life and where I was trying to fit into a area that really I was priced out from day one. I would have been better off getting out of, it was a great place to grow up skateboarding. But as far as developing into a young man and somebody who had to pay dues with their boots on the ground and couldn't really necessarily lean on family nest eggs to kind of help guide me along the way.
No.
It was a losing battle for me.
Sure.
And I was having a hard time with that. I wasn't okay with that. I couldn't quite see it for just what it was and wasn't willing to just cut ties and uproot and go somewhere else. And a lot of that had to do with the moving that I did as a kid, which at the time I thought was great. But now here I am in my young 20s, and I realized that because what I had been doing is a lot of hard, long goodbyes, that once I had actually had a chance to put some roots down, I didn't want to let go of those roots. Right. I just wanted to hang out with my friends and be where some of these new ties had been made. I felt safe. Yeah. Even though I wasn't safe at all and I was, burning from both ends, I was getting fucked up all the time. It caused a lot of problems for me. So when we were getting close to finally putting this first album out, and it took us a while to get it going. We're coming up on 2007 now. We had done a real underground album in 2001, and then that's Apocalypse 3, and then Like Minds did an EP in like maybe 2003-4. But it wasn't until about 2007 that we had actually been finishing up our first LP, our album. And it's like, right when you're getting this done and you need to just go and explode and go get to work, go get the shows, you got to go get yourself out there, you got to get that exposure. I kind of snapped in my mind. And I crumbled out here in Cali, and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't be out here. I can't fucking make this shit happen. I had to fold up shop at the worst time ever, and I went back east. I went to go, live with my sister out in Long Island. Her and my brother-in-law were kind enough to say, yeah, come out here. We'll get you set up,
Yeah.
So I started doing chimney sweeping.
Okay.
In Connecticut. Me and my brother-in-law, we would take the ferry over. He'd been doing this for a long time, hustler, doing his thing, doing what he's got to do to put food on the table. He made a business for it. You know what I mean? He's doing what he's got to do. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. I'm always up for a new adventure.
For sure.
I'd already done like 35 different jobs up to that point anyway.
Right.
So I'm like, okay,
so what's
cool.
another one?
Let's add this. Getting out there and doing that, right? But just feeling dead inside. I'm not expressing myself. I want to be creative.
Now it's work.
It's work, and then I got heavy into pills.
Yeah.
And I was probably heavy into pills before that shit started, but I just carried that thing out there with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it was probably more prevalent in your mind, though.
Oh, it was, yeah.
Now it was more like, now it's a thing, it's got a hold of you.
Yeah, it's got a hold of me, and I'm like, I don't even give a fuck. Let me get one so I can turn the fuck off.
Yeah.
So I don't have to think today. You know what I mean?
What was the blowback like with the guys when you're like, I'm peacing out?
Kendall was okay with it, seemingly on the top layer, but I'm sure that Hagen was, you know what, man? I mean, this is one of those things where it's not that it's a touchy subject, but it's one of those things where I have guilt about it to this day.
Sure.
I actually feel really terrible about doing that because he was somebody that he had the finances to kind of put together the logistics of that project. Mm-hmm. He was the producer. He was the financial backing of that project.
Right.
We shared creative producing responsibilities, whether it was beat production, recording, and obviously, we did all our own writing and whatever, but knowing that he had financially put out for that, and, he paid to get the project mastered and all the CDs made at the time. Remember those?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me to up and dip out and kind of kill this project that had barely been born.
Right.
I'm sure that was probably pretty devastating.
But I also think, too, that you didn't do it for nefarious reasons.
No, I didn't.
You did it for your own mental health.
No,
because
you're right.
you could tell you were going down another spiral.
I was going down a deep one.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't think you should be as hard on yourself or carry that, like that much guilt as you should.
Especially if you saw the writing on the wall and was like, I need to make a change.
Yeah.
Because that's, it's coming from a positive place. Even though it's a shitty situation.
Yeah.
It's a positive place.
Sure. Okay, I'll take that. Why not?
Yeah. We're all about healing over here,
Thank
man.
you.
Well,
Thank you so much.
That is it's just honesty, man. I mean, because...
Well, we've all done it, though.
We have.
That's the thing. We've all been a part of shit that we've either fucking thrown in the towel or had someone else throw in the towel.
Well,
it sucks.
I'm a college dropout.
Fucking get out of here.
But, I did it for, half a year, and it was, on my parents' dime. Nothing was clicking.
Yeah, I hear that.
I was drowning, and I was trying to follow a career path that everyone told me was going to be the future kind of thing. This is what you should go for. Nothing I was into, but I was like, I'm doing this because I have to. Apparently, this is the way it is. It's a much lesser scale, and there's nothing creative about it. But at the same time, if you're not into it, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I thought I was doing my family a favor by being like, stop paying. I'm out.
Yeah.
And I think that changed my relationship with my folks in an irreparable way.
And this was Hamburger College you were doing?
Yeah. It was paper hats and spatulas with my initials on it.
Here we are.
At least you didn't say clown college. At least I'm feeding people.
Come on, bro. There's no way you can get accepted into clown college. But
yeah.
So back out to East Coast.
Yeah.
How long did your reset take?
Yeah. So I was out there. I wasn't even skating. we were just doing our thing out there, working.
Yeah.
And it was cool. But you know what happened was there was one rainy day in Connecticut and we're in the van and, we're passing the pipe. And oh my God, we were on this bridge, right? It was like a 40-foot high bridge and it just had the Jersey barriers on the side. We're probably in the middle lane. And I think he just like, all right, here you go. It's time for your rip. And we were slightly veering to the right. And this fucking van started teacupping. We started spinning 540. We spin backwards. I'm looking at traffic come at us.
Yeah, that's scary.
And we're in this van that's loaded with fucking cement bags, bricks, sheet metal.
Yeah.
And we're headed straight for this Jersey barrier, and it's like a 40-foot drop into some creek.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is it. This is how the story ends.
Yeah.
All this for fucking this?
Yeah.
I'm sure Nick's thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, motherfucker! So we hit this thing. Thank God we didn't bust through this shit. They make those things pretty good out there.
Yeah, they do their job.
So I separated a few ribs off my spine in that accident.
Oof.
The van got totaled. We had to wrap our head around what had just happened and get our fucking story straight.
Yeah.
All that stuff. And a few things coincided where it was just kind of time to get out of New York. So I did a beeline down to Florida.
Okay.
Now, let's go on a new adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I shacked up where my mom was at the time. My mom and my stepdad were in Florida on the Gulf Coast, a little bit south, like an hour and a half south of Tampa. And I got a job working in one of these, Gulf coastal restaurants. And I was a line cook. Mm-hmm. I did the duck and the goddamn escargot and shit like that, and the coconut shrimp.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool, because we grew up with food. I was into it, and I have a ton of restaurant history of my own, right?
Sure.
So again, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I had some moments where I was like, my life isn't even happening right now.
Yeah.
I don't exist. This town I was in, like, there were no people my age. I mean, talk about, it's Florida. We already, you know where this is going. It's fucking, it's beach billies in the town I was in, and, old folks or just so I don't know, weird characters, okay?
Yeah.
It just didn't, there was
Florida.
no culture there. No culture that I could resonate with. You know what I mean? I'm not a parrot head.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and oh man. So I did get into skating a little bit there because that's the only thing there was. There was a little island of a skate park. But again, I was taking down 12 packs a night with one of the guys I was working with, and then, getting in the car and driving my ass home,
Yeah.
And, I'm like, wow, this is too easy. Fuck this. So luckily, there was this one night where the owner of this restaurant came into the kitchen on the line. This guy was an alcoholic. He was tore up. He came up to me and started pecking me in the chest about something about a paycheck. He's like, if you don't put those checks in the bank tomorrow, they're going to be no good. I'm like, all right, take it easy. Take it easy, man. No worries.
Yeah.
He steps off, all fucking liver-lipped, back out to the floor to go keep drinking with his wife. And, I'm kind of like, this motherfucker just did this shit? Like, who the fuck does that to another man and thinks that, like, this isn't going to go somewhere else? So I look over to the chef, and I'm like, yo, that was crazy. He just looked at me like he'd seen it, like, 10 times before. He's like, I know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. I took my apron off. I went out there. I'm like, hey, Keys, can I come and talk to you into the banquet room for a second? I just wanted to air it out. You know what I mean? I wanted to let him know, like, look, I'm not that guy. And these things don't need to happen this way. Mm-hmm. So we go in there and I'm like, hey man, first and foremost, don't worry about the checks. I'll get them in. It's not a big deal. Yeah, I'm like, but I got to tell you, you coming at me like that really isn't necessary. And he's like, oh no, I didn't do it. I'm like, no, you pecked me in the chest. And then he started to get all, oh what? This young buck's trying to tell me something?
Yeah.
And he was trying, I could tell he was leaning up. He wanted to fire me. So I just said, okay, fuck this shit. I'm going to blow this up right now. I'm like, fuck this. I quit. And I turned around and I kicked open these two French doors out of the banquet room into the dining room. And it was one of those like record skip moments where the whole fucking place, every white head in that motherfucker turned their neck quicker than they had in 20 years.
Yeah.
And I go in there and okay, tidbit, I didn't tell you. My mom was the fucking hostess there. So I went right up to her. I'm like, yo, Mom, I'm fucking out of this bitch. Let me tell you what happened, And she's like, what? And she was fully on board. I went into the kitchen. I'm like, I'm out. I folded up my apron. I shook hands with all the cooks. You guys were great. It was like the end of my comedy act. You guys were great. Have a good night. Crowd. The guy's wife comes into the kitchen. She's like, "Were you that little motherfucking?" And I just did that like, "Yeah, bitch, I was, and fuck you too." Like probably threw something threw like a fucking chafing dish off of the fucking counter, and then me and my mom just both blazed trails out of the motherfucker. Just left him behind.
Mom's had your back and went with you.
Yeah, she quit too right then and there.
Fuck yeah.
We just got on some
we're out.
And that was it. I'm like, all right. This is over. I'm buying a ticket. This is my chance to come back to life. So I got my ass back on a plane and came back out here. It was still 2007.
Yeah.
A lot happened within that year.
Yeah, big year.
And that was the reset. So I come out and, I'm happy to be back, but it's almost like, how do I reemerge without just sliding back into the same shit? Now,
plus culture changes quick.
Yeah, it does change quick. It's weird. You know how motherfuckers are. And I had to do some basic things. I had to kind of hide out in my grandma's 55 and up apartment complex. Like coming in through the side doors type of shit. And, all my personal belongings are stacked away in a storage closet somewhere. So I rode that for a while until the manager's like, we let it slide for as long as we could, okay? Other people have grandsons, too.
we just want you to know that we know.
Yeah, we know, okay, kid? So I'm like, all right, fine. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to shell some money out, get some new gear. And I had a little bit of different approach this time. I was a little shell shock from what I had done with this whole lyrical project. And also, I was in a weird space because the places I went with writing were not good for my health. I'm a method writer.
Okay.
So, I go there. And that's part of the reason why I started having some mental issues. Because, I would be up all hours of the night, like having conversations with the devil, that kind of shit, like on some weird shit. And I got all fucking Howard Hughes and shit. Like I wouldn't go see people.
Yeah.
Boy.
I got down to like 109 pounds. Yeah, it was crazy. It was fucking crazy. Because I was a busboy at this Italian restaurant that my friend's parents owned. And these regulars who would come in, like it really hit me one time because this lady, she called me out. She's like, "Johnny, what's going on with you? You're losing weight." And I'm like, oh, fuck, the gig's up. She's like, "You used to look like Orlando Bloom. Now you look like some other schlup, And, it was crazy. So, all of the rest of people my age were out doing their normal shit. And I'm in this fucking trailer park in this little one-bedroom joint that I got, just smoking grits, smoking resin because I'm too broke to buy weed.
Yeah.
And, I'm hitting my Blockbuster movie pass twice a day and, writing and just withering away. So when I came back, I'm like, you cannot do that again because it's just going to be rinse and repeat.
Right.
So I was actually terrified of writing. So I stopped for a really long time. And I'm like, I'm just going to make beats and I'm going to go back to my roots. I'm just going to go back to DJing. Yeah. So, I started doing that again. And I started DJing on a little mini local tour with some friends of mine, this group, the Knuckleheads at the time. Okay. Wes Haven and Danny Mac. And, we did this little San Diego, North County up in the Riverside stretch of runs. Yeah. And it was a short run, but it was fun. But it was cool because we had a live drummer with us. Uh-huh. So it was me on the tables, him on the drums, and then them doing their thing. So we brought a little bit different energy to it, and that was cool at the time. But, creative differences. These guys were like brothers, and, that's how it is. You get egos involved. Yeah. And, it's all good, but, these are just the things that happen. You spend enough time with people, it's going to happen, right? Right. There's no escaping it. And so after that kind of reached its end, I was like, okay, I'm going to kind of reel back in and just focus on doing beats again. Mm-hmm. And this is where I had the opportunity. I'm back now, right? So why not start pumping the album? Yeah. I had this crazy block. I was all weird. I was all fucked up in the head. You know, this is why I have the guilt, because I know there was times when Hagen was like, yo, you want to go try and do a show? And I was just like, straight up, no. You know?
But I think you knew, though. You knew it wasn't for you at the time.
Something was going on with me.
I mean, I respect that more than anything. Because you could have said, I went up there and just fucked everything up.
Played by the numbers and just...
Yeah, but you know what? I didn't explain to him. I didn't know how to articulate it at the time, and I couldn't give him something he could chew on other than some feelings of abandonment, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah,
and probably betrayal.
Without an explanation, a hard no... It's going to let the mind kind of go,
right.
What the fuck, dude? Like,
straight up. Yeah, that's just planting a claymore on his fucking heart. You know?
Yeah,
for sure.
But, you live and you learn. You know what I'm saying? And so I said, fuck it, let's do beats. That's like 2008 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So I mean, that's a pretty big stretch, man.
It's a long stretch.
Especially bouncing from San Diego back to East Coast and then down to Florida and then from Florida back out here.
Yeah.
Okay, so now,
a lot to unpack.
Now you're back.
Now I'm back.
Now you're back, and you're like, we're into '08. So when did you get the moment of clarity where it's like, I'm on track and shit's actually going good now for me?
Okay, yeah. Well, it wasn't then. I'll tell you that. It wasn't until I learned how to, actually take care of my temple for lack of better terms. Start eating right, start exercising, take care, put my fucking mind, body, and spirit back together first and foremost.
Absolutely.
So, I was working at this really low-key Caribbean cafe in Encinitas, which was owned by this Israeli cat. And it was an interesting spot. It was on the top layer. It's just some hippie joint. But hey, that was where I needed to be at that time.
Yeah. Sure.
Because, these people were just on a different thing at that time. Like nobody gave a fuck who you were, where you were from, what color you were, like what you smelt like.
You could just be.
You could just be, you know what I mean? And you earned your keep by providing something other than the basic status quo. You know what I mean? I mean, we were cooking food, we were working, you know what I mean? But with all that, there was something else going on there. So I kind of got my shit back together, you know what I mean? I'm getting in my groove. I'm taking care of my body. Got this grind going. I'm meeting people again. And you know what? And then I'm writing again.
Yeah.
I was going to say that sounds a whole lot like stuff we've talked about too, where you just hit that groove and you go with it because it feels right.
Yeah, you have to get out of your own way, right?
You do. And that's the thing. There's that moment, the aha moment where you could tell this is all right.
This is it.
Somehow, some way, I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing now.
Yeah.
And that's a rare feeling. It's awesome when people get it.
What about this? Is okay. Have you either one of you guys ever had the false aha moment?
Oh yeah, I'm about to have it. We're about to have it right now.
Oh
hell yeah. Oh yeah.
Here we go.
So yeah, this was all good and great. I'm puffing up. I feel fucking brand new.
Yeah.
But, life happens. Shit happens. Mm-hmm. And you get knocked down a couple pegs. And with that, I had to get resituated real quick, which I did. Ended up with a new job. But, what I did was I had to go back into something. I had to go into autopilot. Mm-hmm. And for me, autopilot was let's burn it from both ends.
Okay.
So I went back into heavy drinking. Heavy fucking this and that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there was nights where I had a fucking little Coke bindle to myself and I'm just pulling off on a dark road and just solo. Not even having a good fucking time.
It's not
I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing.
It's not recreational anymore.
It's
now
not
it's just to go forward.
Yeah. And the thing is, logically, you're doing what the fuck am I doing?
Right.
But, you're doing it. It's happening, and you're hoping somebody's going to yell cut, but that shit is not happening.
No.
So I didn't have, false aha, right? So I stayed in that whole place for fucking easy a lot. Okay, so we're talking 2009.
Okay.
I didn't get into a new fucking groove until like 2000 fucking 11, 12, 13. I went on pause and existed for a long fucking time, bro.
Yeah, that's a long period.
So it was just robotic. Just going through the motions.
Oh, yeah, hating every minute of it. But see, this is the whole trick of it because, this is one of those things where you've been down this road and now you're upset about being upset.
Right.
Because you fucking know better. You've conquered this before, but here you are again.
Yeah.
But I don't have anything to chew on.
Right.
You know, I got nothing. What else is there?
man.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Everything. You know, everybody else is doing it. It works for them.
Right.
Why won't it work for me?
It's a pit.
Yeah, but you know why it works for them? Because maybe they're not crazy fucking artist nut jobs that have to take inspiration and find a way to turn it into physical form. Mm-hmm. They're cool
Right.
with doing a 9 to 5 and just kicking back watching the game and bitching about work.
Right.
You know what I mean? That does it for them.
Yeah.
You know, they have different things that work for them. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not even shitting on that. I'm just saying, if it works
No,
for them,
'cause
it
if-
works for them.
If they're cool with it,
Yeah.
Right.
you know.
But I was just so uncontent, and I was
Right.
so fucking pissed at myself that I just perpetuated it, and it was just a downward
Yeah.
spiral. Just stayed in it.
It's
You know what I
such
mean?
Such a sign, though, that
Oh, yeah.
discontent, you know.
Yeah.
Such a sign.
It's
No, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you can wallow in it or you could let it motivate you.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
You
yeah.
know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because
Well, I
that's-
gotta be honest. I think most just wallow. They don't even try to get themselves
well,
out.
because
Yeah.
it feels so hopeless.
Yeah.
You know, you've reached a point where you're just like, well, there's no up, there's no left, there's no right. So fuck it,
Yeah.
I'm done. You
Yeah.
know, maybe my time, my window has passed. You know?
Right, right.
And nobody really, well, the lucky few find the window anyway, or
Yeah.
or create one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully they do.
Hopefully, because you're right. There are people who will give up that dream because they've hit rock bottom.
Yeah,
And they're just
yeah.
kind of like, what's the point?
But I will say this. Like, even though a lot of that was the script, I still had my safe haven of making music. I still had it, but the only difference this time was that, like I said, I was in this Howard Hughes mode and nobody heard it, nobody saw it. So I ducked away for like fucking 10 years, still grinding away, making beats, but not sharing the shit with anybody. And what the fuck good is that?
You were just putting it in the coffers for
Just
yourself,
keeping it.
you know,
for a lot
yeah.
of things. I had a chip on my shoulder. I was a hater at that time. I
Sure.
can say that looking back.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, you know what? Let's work with people. I can be a control freak. I like things done a certain way. You know, I didn't like what the local talent sounded like. And
So you knew you couldn't take your stuff there; they wouldn't get it.
no, we weren't on the same page.
You know, it's a whole different vibe.
Totally. Absolutely. You know, it's, you know, okay, you want to make horror, but then the only people you're hooking up with are only trying to do rom-com.
Yep.
You know, yeah, sure, I know there's common ground there, a little bit of romance, maybe a little couple jokes, but it's not the same thing.
No,
It's
they're
just
not-
it's not the
fucking
same recipe.
thing.
They're not going to
No,
look at what
no.
you have to offer.
No.
As viable.
Yeah.
You know.
So I made an island out of myself,
Yep.
which, you know, that was hurtful. I shouldn't have done that. I should have found ways to reach out. I should have taken the steps. But there was also that other side of me that's like, nobody gives a fuck.
Right.
And part of me doesn't give a fuck.
And it's very hard to get out of that mindset.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know, so
no.
and especially when you live in it for a decade.
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
Around what 2013, 14 is like when we
Yes.
started meeting up. So I think we'll come back next week.
All right. Well, we should probably wrap this one up. And I'd say this is the first part of 3.
Yep. All right. Well, until next time.
See you guys.